The river roared like vengeance, tossing the stagecoach's splintered frame against jagged stones. Anna Carter's eyes snapped open beneath water's icy grip. Her skirts ballooned in the current. Her hair tangled around her shoulders like weeds. She gasped for breath, each gulp of air a scorch against frostbitten lungs. Ahead, a dark shape loomed, a wolf silhouette on the riverbank, its yellow eyes glinting. Anna flung a hand at her side, heart hammering, as water dragged her toward teeth in darkness. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches your heart, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've got something extra special saved just for you. Neshoba stood chest-deep in frigid current, moccasins anchored in mossy stones. His bow was slung across his back, and his fingers flexed on the haft of his tomahawk. He spotted the coach's wreckage and the girl's frail form caught in swirling eddies. Without thought, he strode forward, each footfall a prayer against the river's rage. A wolf leapt from driftwood, jaws snapping for Anna's ankle. Neshoba reached the girl and drove a silent prayer through his tomahawk's blade. Lightning wrought in obsidian steel. The wolf yelped and retreated into brush. Neshoba's arm scooped Anna from the current, lifting her high above the flood. Water sluiced off her pale face. Her eyes closed against shock. He tucked her beneath his arm and waded back to shore. Heart drum beat slow beneath autumn's cold grip. Anna lay on the bank, gasping beneath birch bark shelter. Neshoba pressed his coat across her shoulders, buffalo hide, warm as heart's glow. He knelt and examined her wrists and ankles. No broken bones, only bruises and river's bite. She clutched a silver pendant at her throat. Oval locket etched with swirling initials, AC blood speckled its edge. Neshoba knelt beside her and tapped the locket's clasp. No words passed. His eyes spoke promise in silence. Anna found his gaze beneath the forest hush. Her lips parted. "Thank you," she whispered, voice brittle as frost. Neshoba pressed a callous hand to his chest, then turned and vanished in the pines without a word, calling Anna's name with his eyes alone. He guided her through snow-dusted pines, moss and lichen cushioning each footfall. Anna stumbled, skirts heavy with water and mud. Neshoba stayed beside her, reaching when she wavered. His moccasins tracked across sagebrush and cedar needles, each step a lifeline back to his hidden cabin, a crossroads of survival. He settled her on a log and removed a flint from his pouch. Sparks jumped to tinder. A tiny flame blossomed. He coaxed into life beneath birch kindling, then arranged a flat stone beneath the fire for heat. Anna closed her eyes to the flicker. Neshoba left her hand on the stone's warm edge and returned with a quiver of arrow shafts. He knelt and stripped the bark from young branches, fashioning stakes around the fire, defense against wolves and wind alike. Anna watched him in silhouette, shoulders broad against sunset's glow, spirit carved from stone and sky. Night fell in lantern's hush. Neshoba led Anna to his cabin. A lean-to of cedar planks and sagging roof, smoke curling from packed earth chimney. Inside, he swept aside snow and mud, then laid a bed of sewn buckskin and furs. Anna sank into softness. The pendant slipped from her neck. Neshoba caught it, brass cold against palm. He draped his deerskin coat around her chest, each fold a silent refuge. Anna closed her fingers over the coat's fringe, its fox-fur collar warm against her cheek. He fetched a tin pot of pemmican stew and a tin cup of warm water. He held both at chest height. Anna nodded and sipped, each swallow a bomb against river's roar. Neshoba watched her drink, each gaze a pulse of gentle guardianship. The cabin's walls creaked like memory's sigh. Luna, his wolfhound, patted in and nosed Anna's hand. She stroked the dog's head in wordless gratitude. Neshoba sat across from her and drew a shallow bowl for Luna. The dog ate in ravenous hush. Anna's hand hovered over Neshoba's, seeking trust in his silent communion with animal. He nodded once, eyes soft as moonlight on creek. Anna pressed her lips to the locket's edge and pried it open. Inside lay a folded note, water-stained but legible. AC to WH, escape at all costs. Find refuge. Beneath the scrawl, W. Neshoba's tribal name. Anna's gaze met his. He tilted his head, comprehension shaping his features. The woman he'd saved was tied to his own exile, hers a flight from forced bonds, his a banishment from tribe for rescuing captives. Each heartbeat in mirror to the other's trauma. They shared the cabin's quiet like prayer. Anna pressed a note beneath her shawl. Neshoba tended embers until flame glowed beneath iron pot. He brought dried herbs from woven pouch and crushed them into stew. Sage for healing, yarrow for chill. Anna inhaled its scent and nodded. He ladled nourishment into her bowl. She ate in small bites, each mouthful a pact of survival. Outside, wolves howled across sagebrush plains. Huntresses of moon. Neshoba rose and laid a trap at the door's edge. Snare loop of sinew and a tethered log. He stepped back and studied its curve. Anna watched, fingers curling around locket chain, her life tethered to Neshoba's silent promise. Before sleep claimed him, Anna rose and pressed her palm to Neshoba's chest. No words. Her gesture spoke trust born in the river's wrath and cabin's glow. Neshoba draped his coat across her shoulders once more, then pressed his hand to the locket pinned at her throat. 2 lives bound in brass and deerskin. Anna drifted asleep on furs and furrows of trust. Neshoba stood sentinel by the hearth, rifle slung across sinew back. He watched the trap's loop gleam in lantern's half-light. Each heartbeat a vow. No harm would stalk them under his watch. Outside, hoof prints emerged in morning's drift. Fresh boots pressed toward the cabin's door. Neshoba's hand tightened on rifle. Anna stirred and clutched locket in dream's haze. The valley held its breath as dawn cracked the sky. Gideon hoped pursuit pressed close, and only shared courage could carry them through Part 2 shelter. Dawn's frost gilded the cabin's beams, where a stranger's silence held Anna's world in hushed custody. Inside, Neshoba knelt before the hearth's crackling glow, coaxing ember from ash. Each spark was a star reborn in the blackened pit, a promise that warmth could outlast night's vengeance. Anna lay on furs beside him, throat tight where the river's chill had burned. She watched his broad profile in lantern light, the ridge of his cheek, the strength in his sinewed back. Wordless care shaped each motion. Neshoba pressed a cup of pine bark tea into Anna's trembling hands. Bitter warmth sluiced down her throat, each swallow a step toward life. He tipped his head to a cast-iron pot simmering with pemmican and wild onions. No words passed. His eyes held the question and the answer both. Anna closed her fingers around the cup's rim and nodded once, letting strength seep through porcelain and bone. She rose and stumbled to a corner where bundles of dried herbs hung from split beams. Sage for clean air, yarrow for wound's sting, willow bark for fever's cruel hand. Neshoba watched as Anna reached for yarrow, fingers grazing brittle leaves. He offered a knife, obsidian half-bound in sinew. Anna accepted it with careful grace, slicing stems to steep in boiling water. Each cut was a covenant. She would learn. She would survive. Outside, snow-dusted pines whispered against the wind. A broken snare lay tangled in briar, its loop loose, bait gone. Neshoba crossed the door and examined the trap's frayed cord. His jaw clenched beneath memory's weight. Betrayal of foothold lost. He knelt amid drift and salvage, re-wove the snare with patient hands, tightening loops like sacred promise. Anna watched on the threshold, her skirts dragging in cold. She held the locket against her chest, its brass worn by river's storm. Inside, the note's ink had bled. AC to WH, seek refuge beyond Hawthorne's claim. Each letter was half a map, half a warning. Neshoba straightened and met Anna's gaze. He pointed to cedar boughs piled for shelter and offered naught of reassurance. Frontier tasks were their covenant. Anna dropped the locket inside her shawl and stepped into the dusk's hush. They labored through morning's pale light. Anna chopped slender birch for kindling, each swing of her axe echoing to the cabin's hollow quiet. Neshoba guided her grip, wrists aligned to protect back, axe head lifting to carve warm from bark. Sweat beaded her brow despite cold. He knelt to her side and set a split log in the fire's cradle. No words, only the silent teaching of survival. When embers glowed, he handed Anna leather mitts. She slid them on, each glove a cradle for heat. He fetched a tin of pemmican from a high shelf and placed it before her. Anna broke a chunk and tasted salt-kissed fat and dried venison, frontier flavors that spoke of hunger's end. She nodded thanks and let the stew's heat entwine her first real meal since she'd fled Holt's gilded cage. As Anna stirred a pot of dried apples and sage, she found courage in simple tasks. Neshoba watched from across the hearth, each flicker of flame painting his features in amber and shadow. She dared to meet his eyes. "Why, help me," she whispered, voice brittle as cracked stone. Neshoba paused, gaze drifting to a carved tooth in his deerskin coat. Memento of captives freed. No words passed. Only his hand traced the seam of his coat, then pressed against his chest. His name spoken in heartbeat's vow. Anna pressed her palm to the heart's warmth. Understanding dawned in embers glow. His exile born of mercy, her escape born of desperation. Both had been cast from worlds that demanded sacrifice. Each pulse of flame tethered them in shared exile. Afternoon settled in lanterns' patience. Anna draped herbs on split boards, sun-bleached windows, allowing slanted rays to warm drying leaves. Sage and yarrow curled in aroma's quiet prayer. Neshoba sat on a stump outside the cabin, carving a cedar pipe, each shave of bark curling into spiral memory. Anna joined him, blade in hand, tracing soft curls of wood. Together they shaped tools of solace. Pipe for prayer, herbs for healing. Luna padded between them, wet muzzle nudging Anna's skirt, wolfhound's balm for human fear. Anna smiled at Luna's loyalty, each wag a tale of stitch in trust tapestry. Neshoba nodded at her laughter's whisper, harvest of hope he had not dared plant. Twilight's hush lingered beneath pines. A distant hoofbeat cracked the silence, a single pulse against drifting snow. Anna froze, heart's ember stilled. Neshoba rose, knife in hand, eyes cast at the ridge. Anna reached for her locket's chain, half map, half plea. She pressed the pendant's cool brass to her lips and inhaled its promise of refuge. Neshoba beckoned her inside. They secured the door with crossbeam and rawhide strap. He checked the snare outside, bait gone again, his jaw clenched beneath the sweat salt. Anna knelt and laid a hand on his arm. Unequal in strength, but equal in trust. No words passed. Their silence answered threat in draft hush. Before darkness claimed the cabin, Neshoba stood sentinel by the window. Anna sat on furs by the hearth, shawl draped across her shoulders, each fold a fortress. Luna lay at her feet, head on paws. The herbs on the boards whispered memory's promise. The pipe cedar shaving scented the air with prayer. Anna reached for Neshoba's coat, its fleece still warm from his back. She draped it around her shoulders. No words, only trust cloak folded in wool. Neshoba studied her in lamplight. A woman shaped by river's wrath and frontier's mercy, each fold a coat of vow he would keep. Outside, hoofprints glinted in moon's pale beam, fresh and certain. Circling the cabin's door, a shadow paused among pines. Gideon Holt's silhouette, spurs glinting like broken pride. He lifted a hand as if to knock, then vanished into night's clutch. Inside, Luna's growl rumbled beneath Anna's ribs. Neshoba leveled his tomahawk at the dark glass. Anna pressed the locket against her heart. The cabin's hearth exhaled its fragile warmth. The night held its breath. In the hush before dawn's reckoning, the valley waited. Would Holt's greed burst through timber's vow, or would two exiles stand fast as chosen kin against the world's final storm? Boot prints scarred the frost, a hunter's vow haunting Nevada's dawn. Anna Carter crept from the cabin's door, moccasins whispering on frost-hard earth. She paused at the snare Neshoba had mended, its loop empty, bait gone. Silver moonlight glinted on hoofprints beyond the trap, each print an accusation. Anna clenched the locket beneath her shawl. Hearts thrum loud as a rifle's crack. Inside, Neshoba tended embers to flame. Each spark flared like fireflies freed from ash. He laid logs in herringbone pattern, then stepped to the door with silent grace. Anna joined him at the threshold, shawl draped across shoulders. He nodded at her. Keep low. She sank to fawn height, eyes tracing hoofprints winding through sagebrush and cedar. Luna patted Anna's side, muzzle low in huntress's vigil. Neshoba knocked an obsidian-tipped arrow, bowstring taut against dawn's chill. He motioned Anna back into shadow. She pressed herself against cedar planks, breath shallow as winds hush. Luna's ears flicked a pine's edge. A scout emerged, lean and dark-clad, rifle cradle like Threat's cradle. He crept among juniper boughs, footfall careful until Neshoba's arrow flashed, air splitting in silent song. The arrow struck pine above the scout's head with splintering crack, flurries of bark dancing in spray. The scout froze, rifle clattering to snow, then vanished into timber's knot. Anna exhaled, shawl flapping in tremor. She met Neshoba's gaze, steadfast as canyon walls. No words passed. Each had claimed the other as sentinel. Luna growled at Pine's edge. Anna pressed her palm to the wolfhound's flank, warm fur against numb fingers. Morning leached gold into Pine's. Anna and Neshoba labored side by side. He showed her how to carve stakes from cedar for new snares. She guided obsidian knife along grain, each shave with curling in spiral memory. The trapper arrived at mid-morning sun. John Sinclair, bristled beard like bramble, pack of pelts at his back. He hailed them with wind-rough voice. He sent 3 more. Posse grows like tumbleweed in hurricane. He carried a leather-bound ledger of names. Holt's ledger, each name inked beneath debt tallied in land and blood. Anna fingered the ledger. Neshoba held his breath. Sinclair laid a fur-hide map before them. Cedar spine creased to show Holt's claim lines overlapping Anna's family's hawthorn tract. Holt's greed traced over generations. Anna drew in a ragged breath. Her parents had fought the same battle, now only echo left in stolen lines. Sinclair unbuckled his canteen and offered Anna a sip of cedar tea. Smoky solace in tin cup. She drank while Neshoba pressed a bandage to her wrist. Small cut from carving stakes. Luna nosed Sinclair's leg. The trapper patted her head. She'll need a guide to Silverton's court, Sinclair said, voice soft as prayer. I'll ride with you. He folded Holt's ledger into a corner of his pack. Evidence of scam and broken law. Neshoba nodded, fingers brushing Sinclair's pack. No words needed. Allies had found them in exile's hush. Anna wrapped her shawl tighter around Lockett's promise. She knelt and mended a loose wire on the snare. Each not a prayer that no more hoofprints would cross their claim unchallenged. At dusk, the posse struck again. Holt's men burned the trap beyond the corral. Charred arrow shafts smoldered like blackened teeth. Anna and Neshoba heard the crackle of flame and ran to the barn door. Flames licked through slats. Sinclair arrived with axe, felling boards to douse embers. Miners and ranchers spilled from pine shadows, buckets in hand. Jeb Calloway poured snow-doused hail on hot wood. Martha Cole jammed loose nails with her boot. Each act was community's vow. No child would stand alone. Neshoba lifted Anna from the coal's glare and set her behind stacked saddles. He raised his bow. Anna reached for the locket, its brass rim warmed by her palm. She pressed the note's corner beneath his fingers. Hawthorne's claim endures beyond greed. Neshoba exhaled, arrow knocked. Luna snarled at ridge's edge, each growl a thunderclap against siege. Night fell in lantern's defiance. Anna carved small bones into whistles, her own talisman of refuge. Each cut trace-healing arc from panic's blade. Neshoba watched her in firelight. Each shave spoke her transformation from frightened passenger to frontier guardian. She met his gaze, steel in her eyes. He nodded and pressed a bone whistle into her palm, nonverbal trust bound in carved bone. Outside, hoofbeats throbbed like heartbeats gone wrong. Anna pressed the whistle to her lips and cupped hands around it. She blew. 3 notes, sharp as wild goose call. Holt's men froze at the corral gate. Pilot and echo. Jeb Calloway fired over their heads. They bolted down the trail, hoofbeats bleeding into night's vast hush. At dawn, hoofprints again scarred frost. Too many for one man's vengeance. Anna and Neshoba stood atop drifted woodpile, surveying pines swirling with sedge and threat. The map of Hawthorne's claim lay pinned, the Sinclair's pack, legal stake in stark relief. Anna touched the locket, inscription warm but clear, Hawthorne's right, sealed by kin. Its promise glowed beneath dawn's frost. Neshoba laid a hand on her shoulder. Strength shared without words. Around them, allies formed in snow's brittle light. Sinclair with ledger, Reed and Mrs. Cole with witness affidavits, miners with salted pickaxes. The valley exhaled their resolve. But as the sun cracked pale across pines, a lone rider appeared on ridge's crest. Gideon Holt himself, silhouette carved in vengeance's steel. He lifted his rifle, pistol at his hip. Anna's breath stilled. Neshoba raised his bow. In the hush before Silverton's court and final stand, the hunter's shadow loomed, Holt's steel glinting in dawn's promise. Only unity forged in fire and bone could carry Anna and Neshoba into Part 4's valley stand. Hoofbeats thundered through Nevada's dusk, vengeance carving the valley's heart. Anna Carter pressed her back to the cabin's rawhide door, breath stealing in her chest like loaded Colt. Sparks danced from the hearth's crackling glow, its warmth a fragile shield against Holt's fury. Neshoba crouched beside her, bow strung and arrow notched, eyes steel to protect the world they had forged in exile. Holt's posse, 5 hardscrabble men in oilcloth and spurs, lit torches against the failing light. They poured from pines like broken ghosts, rifles leveled at cedar split walls. A rifle barked. Plank splintered beside Anna's shoulder. She ducked, shawl whipping an ember's breath. Neshoba loosed his arrow. It whined past a man's ear and struck post. Splinters flew in a spray of night and warning. Anna exhaled, heart's ember flaring. She lifted the bone whistle Sinclair had given her. 3 carved notches like promise. She blew, shrill call that sliced through gunfire's roar. Outside, miners and ranchers stirred from drifted shadows. Jeb Calloway and 2 pick-wielding hands racing to the door. Sinclair heaved it open. "Hold fast," he roared. Jeb fired over their heads. Miners lobbed snowballs to douse torches. Martha Cole pressed flour sacks against the lower rails. Each burlap bag a barrier of baked bread and justice. Luna leapt to Anna's side. Wolfhounds growled a challenge to Holt's men. Anna seized the moment. She sprinted to the hearth and scooped the locket from her shawl, its brass warmed by her palm. She swung high. "Hawthorne's right, sealed by kin," she cried. The posse faltered. Holt's eyes flared in torchlight, his control cracking like gunpowder's kiss. A second volley cracked the cabin. Sinclair's hat flew from his head. Jeb grunted as bullet ripped his shoulder. He stumbled inside, coat stained in crimson bloom. Martha knelt to bind the wound. Each pressed a cloth of vow that no loss would shatter their stand. Anna pressed a locket into Sinclair's hand. He opened it, read the inscription by lamplight. His nod was resolve. Ledger and locket both bore witness. Holt's men glared, rifles rising. Neshoba stepped forward, arrow ready. Anna placed her hand on his arm. Silent trust forged in river's fury and cabin's glow. Outside, flames licked the barn's edge. Holt's threat wrought in fire scream. Miners formed a ragged phalanx. Pickaxes raised like prayer staff. Neshoba restrung his bow and beckoned Anna to stand behind him. She nodded, shawl wrapped tight, eyes alight with dawn's promise. A shot rang. Neshoba fired an arrow, a living prayer of obsidian steel. The arrow struck Draven Holt's shoulder. He howled and dropped his rifle. The posse wavered. Holt pressed his wound, fury tempered by pain. He barked orders, but the men crumbled beneath community's stand. The final rider spurred forward. Gideon Holt himself, cloak flaring in ember's glow. He raised his Winchester, finger on trigger. Anna stepped to Neshoba's side, pressing the locket's brass to her chest. She met Holt's gaze. No terror, only defiance born in survival's crucible. Holt's finger twitched. Neshoba looses arrow, this time striking Holt's thigh. He staggered, Winchester clattering. Luna lunged, teeth bared in protective guard. Holt cursed and stumbled into pines. Spurs rattling retreat's promise. The posse melted behind him. Hoofbeats fading into night's breach. Inside, Anna sank to her knees beside Jeb's pallet. Martha pressed fresh bandages. Reed laid a calming hand on Jeb's brow. Anna touched Jeb's shoulder, eyes bright with tears. No words, only the hush of chosen family, binding wounded flesh to healing hope. Neshoba refilled lanterns from Sinclair's oil flask. He knelt and found the ledger sprawl folded beneath the hearth. Anna retrieved it. Spine creased where Holt's greed had weighed. They spread ledger and locket on the table. Inked claim and brass seal converging in rightful accord. As firelight waned, a mounted scout rode in from Ridge. His breath steamed in quiet dawn. He dismounted and handed Neshoba a folded summons sealed with Silverton's crest. Court at sunrise. His eyes held relief and fatigue. Neshoba accepted, tucking the parchment beside the ledger. The final stand would be beneath lawful justice's roof. Outside, embers danced on charred beams. Miners piled boards for rebuilding. Sinclair and Reed drew new trap lines beyond the corral. Anna stepped onto the porch, shawl around her shoulders, and watched Jeb set to with his non-dominant hand. Each hammer fall a heartbeat toward repair. Luna pressed against Anna's skirt, loyal as morning's hush. Holt's threat note lay pinned to the trap stake. Tomorrow ends your refuge. Anna smoothed the locket's rim in silent vow. She pressed it against Neshoba's chest. He nodded and draped his coat across her shoulders. 2 lives again bound in buffalo hide and brass. Stanley, the trapper ally, arrived with 2 more ranchers, eyes hardened by winter's toil. He laid a cache of pemmican and spare blankets on the porch. Ride at first light, he said, voice rough as canyon rock. We stand with you. Each pair of spurs clicked in solidarity. No exile, no orphan would stand alone. Night settled in Landon's defiance. Anna lit yarrow tea for Jeb and placed a hand on his shoulder. Silent comfort beyond words. Neshoba stoked embers to warmth. Anna rose and fetched her carving knife, sanding bone whistle's edges until smooth. She pressed it into Neshoba's hand, trust forged in bone and breath. Neshoba met her gaze and placed a whistle against his lips. 2 notes, low as promise. Behind him, Anna pressed the locket's chain around her neck. Each loop was kinship sealed beneath winter's last ascent. Before sleep stole the cabin's vigil, enemies' hoofbeats returned, faint but certain, riding across frost-crusted earth. Anna closed her shawl and pressed the locket's brass to her heart. Neshoba loaded his bow for the dawn. Allies gathered at windows. Sinclair by ledger, Martha by Jeb, miners by pick handles. In the hush before sunrise's covenant, the valley exhaled its promise. Tomorrow's court would seal Anna's claim and forge the bonds of chosen family. Only unity tempered in fire and steel could carry them into Part 5's Dawn's covenant. Dawn's light gilded Nevada's snow, the valley awaiting justice's verdict. Anna Carter stood at Silverton's courthouse steps, shawl wrapped across her chest like a banner of hope. Luna, the wolfhound, sat at her heel, ears pricked. Neshoba, silent as canyon stone, guided her hand to the pendant's smooth brass. Inside, the map fragment and ledger's seal gleamed beneath morning's hush. Inside, oak benches groaned under the weight of townsfolk. Miners in soot-stained coats, ranchers in oilcloth and spurs, Martha Cole clutching affidavits, John Sinclair with Holt's ledger folded neat. Jeb Calloway leaned on his uninjured side, arm in sling, eyes bright with resolve. At the bench, Judge Callahan's fur-trimmed robe trailed like winter's promise. Anna's heart pulsed as step by deliberate step she crossed the floor. Neshoba followed, bow slung at his back, moccasins whispering on flagstone. Luna pressed close, muzzle brushing Anna's skirt. Each breath in the courthouse was a chord in redemption's hymn. Judge Callahan rapped his gavel. We hear the final appeal of Gideon Holt, claimant to the Hawthorne Tract. Holt rose, cloak draped in sleeve shadow, Draven at his side, bandaged shoulder peeking from oilcloth. Holt's gaze was hunger's echo. Anna stepped forward, locket held high. She opened for all to see the inscription, Hawthorne's right, sealed by kin. She turned the pendant toward Sinclair, who laid Holt's ledger beside it. Neshoba's hand drifted to Anna's shoulder. No words, only the steady thrum of comfort. Martha Cole rose, voice clear as dawn's light. I witnessed Thomas Whitaker's claim here in 78. His right was beyond doubt. She lifted her affidavit, her name scrawled in ink as witness. Jeb Calloway limped forward. I helped Thomas fence his land. Holt's deeds are forged. Each word fell like hammer on anvil, bending falsehood to truth. Holt's lip curled. He strode to the bench and slammed a fist. You rely on hearsay. I've wealth and law on my side. He drew his Colt, steel kissed by morning's glare. The courtroom froze, rifles forgotten in pockets, breath held in chests hollow. Sinclair reached beneath his coat and drew the sheriff's badge, Deputy Mallory's gift for service. He flashed badge and stepped between Anna and Holt. Not today, he said, voice low as canyon floor. Holt's finger tightened on trigger. Neshoba moved with fluid grace, bow raised. Draven lunged for Holt's arm. Jeb's rifle but met his shoulder in sharp recoil. Holt's pistol spun from trembling hand and clattered on oak. Judge Callahan pounded his gavel. Deputies seized Holt's arms. Spurred feet fell silent. Holt's eyes flashed at Anna, threat untamed, before shackles bit cold steel into wrists. Draven drooped, shackled beside his brother. Defeat's mantle in their posture. Outside, snow-dusted pines bowed beneath sunrise's sigh. The crowd exhaled in relief. Anna slid the locket around Neshoba's neck, each loop binding them in brass and bone. She placed a ledger in Martha's hands, a covenant of community's trust. Neshoba pressed-palmed his chest, name unspoken but heart proclaiming sanctuary at last. Jeb limped to Anna's side. She plucked a pine sprig from Sinclair's lapel and pinned it to Jeb's coat, tribute to a sacrifice. Each rasp of fabric was a prayer. Wounds would heal, trust endure. They returned to the valley's cabin on mule-drawn wagon, heartbeats echoing through sagebrush plains. Allies fell in behind. Ranchers hauling fresh cedar beams, miners with hammers and nails, Martha with burlap sacks of flour, Sinclair with spare oil for lanterns. Luna patted at Neshoba's side, muzzle nuzzling Anna's hand. The cabin's logs glowed faint in lantern's embrace. Neshoba opened the door. Anna stepped inside, shawl slipping to reveal a carved token, cedar bark carved with their initials, AC plus W. He took the token, pressing its ridges into his palm, promise etched in wood. That evening, straw filled the loft, lanterns glowed like captured stars, and pine bark tea steamed in iron pot. Anna tended embers to flame while Neshoba and John Sinclair rebuilt the hearths around, each brick and stone a stake in their sanctuary. Jeb and Martha laid fresh boards on the porch. Miners raised a new trap beyond the corral, each loop of wire a sentinel against final threat. Anna removed her shawl, no longer cloak but petticoat, and fetched a carved bone whistle. She handed it to Neshoba, who tucked it into his coat pocket. He returned the favor. He placed a cedar token around Anna's wrist, a bracelet of bark and vow. No words passed. Trust gleamed in carved edges. Night softened in lullaby's hush. Anna knelt by Luna's pallet and laid a hand on the dog's head, each stroke a benediction. Neshoba knelt beside her and draped the wolfhound's blanket across her shoulders. Blanket dyed with earth's hue, now warm with shared life. He rose and fetched 2 tin cups, filled with stew Anna had prepared from pemmican and root vegetables. He offered one to Anna. She accepted with a nod. She sipped, warmth pooling in chest. Neshoba drank, eyes reflecting cradle's glow. By deep midnight, The cabin exhaled history's final echo. Anna closed her eyes and cradled the pendant beneath her heart. Neshoba settled beside her on furs, blanket draped across their shoulders. Luna curled at their feet, muzzle on paws. Anna opened her eyes and touched Neshoba's arm. "Wihio," she whispered, his Apache name meaning eagle. He turned his face to hers, awe and belonging shining beneath dusk's veil. He pressed his palm to her cheek, no words, only dawn's vow captured in touch. Weeks later, spring coaxed green from sagebrush and clover beneath thawing earth. Anna and Neshoba stood on the cabin's porch, hands entwined, watching wildflower seeds they'd sown sprout through sunlit cracks. Jeb Calloway hammered a final nail on a new barn door. Martha Cole hung fresh wash on cedar line. Sinclair counted Silver's ledger no longer needed. Luna nickered in greeting as Anna lifted her hand. She pressed her palm to Neshoba's, wedding her life to his exile's grace. He nodded, voice hushed his prayer. "We stand." Anna rested her head on Wihio's shoulder as the valley exhaled in bloom. The pendant glinted at her throat. Brass seal of family claim, memory's gift and future's promise. Under Nevada's wide sky, their chosen family stood redeemed. Two souls bound in rescue's grace, love's endurance written one dawn at a time.